friends, and welcome to another video. Today we're gonna play Bookish Never Have I Ever. You guys have sent me some prompts on social media that will probably lead me to confess all my bookish sins. This stuff has been in my fridge for a lot longer than I would like to admit. I hope it's still okay if I vomit in the middle of this video. Oh, that's a lot more than I wanted to do. White port with ginger ale is a really great combo. I love it. I put way too much port. This is terrible. Okay, let's begin with prompts that you guys have sent me on Twitter. Never have I ever settled on just scanning the book because it was very boring. Yes, I do that quite often actually. I can never get myself to DNF a book. So if I'm really not into a book, I just start skimming a little bit. And I know it would probably just be the better decision to just DNF, but it's like, you know, I've already put effort into reading the beginning, so then I want the satisfaction of having finished the book, so I just kind of skim read until I finish it. So yeah, definitely guilty. A lot of you guys asked me if I've ever spilled food or drinks on a book. I have never spilled a drink on a book, but food, definitely. I'm someone who likes to snack while reading. It's not the best decision. Never have I ever looked up spoilers. I don't think I have. Well, actually, you know those videos on YouTube that are book reviews and then they have a spoiler section and then they say, ooh, come back when you've and then they say, come back when you've read the book. We're now going into spoilers. There are a lot of books where I've just watched the spoiler section, but I didn't purposely look up spoilers. Never have I ever skipped a few pages ahead to see how something will turn out. No, I actually do the opposite of this. I know that I want to. Like if I'm at the end of, for example, at the end of a chapter and you kind of know something is gonna happen at that end of the chapter that's gonna be a cliffhanger, and I know that I'm gonna wanna like avert my eyes to that, you know, the bottom of the page to read it, but I don't want that to happen, so then I like put my hand on the page. Wait, let me demonstrate this. Like I would be reading and I would be like this, or just like this, to prevent myself from accidentally seeing what's at the end of the page. So the next one is never have I ever thrown a book across the room in frustration. If I'm annoyed with something that happens in the book, I'm very quick to physically let that frustration out by just throwing the book across my bed. I am very okay with throwing books. I feel like I do it a lot in my videos. I just did it. Never have I ever left a book unread on my shelf for years. Haven't we all? Never have I ever lied about enjoying a book for a special person. No. Maybe I've, you know, kind of embellished my opinion a little bit more, but if I don't like a book, I'm gonna be honest with you and I'll tell you that I didn't really enjoy the book. I will never lie. Never have I ever forgotten to do something important because you were reading. Here's a little story. This morning, actually, I was reading The Poppy War. I woke up and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna start my day by just reading a bit in bed. And I was like, I'm just gonna read a chapter. But then I was super into it and I just read for more than 2 hours, only to finally look on my phone to see that I actually had a meeting in like an hour, an online meeting, fortunately. And I was like, shit, I completely forgot. But luckily I noticed on time so I could still prepare myself. But if I didn't look on my phone, I would have just continued reading and completely forget that I actually had a meeting. Never have I ever purposely broken the spine on a book. Depends on what you mean with like purposefully. You know, some people like purposely break the spine before they read just to make it an easier reading experience. I don't do that. But I also don't mind if I do break the spine. Preferably not, but I don't really mind. Never have I ever hated the main love interest and loved the villain instead. You're just trying to make these very specific to me, aren't you? I mean, obviously that's Shadow and Bone. I don't really care about Mel, but I do like the Darkling. Never have I ever lied about reading a book. No. Have I? No, that would be weird. Never have I ever DNF'd a book after less than 50 pages. I have. I DNF'd The Raven Boys really quickly. The only moments that I DNF books is when I get them from the library, because then I don't really care because I didn't put money into it. Never have I ever looked up a character and got spoiled by the results. This happened to me when I was going to read Insurgent, the sequel to Divergent, and I kind of forgot about what happened in Divergent, so I looked up Triss's Wikipedia. Ooh. Yeah, Allegiant was already out by then, so I guess if you've read the book you kind of know what I spoiled myself for. Never have I ever fallen asleep and let the book drop on my face. I have to admit, I don't really understand how this happens to people. Like, in order for that to happen, you have to lay down and read like this. That's just gonna be super tiring on your arms, right? Or am I just really weak? Fell on my bed, don't worry. I don't throw books on the ground. Like, they won't get damaged. Paperbacks are sturdy. Never have I ever skipped to the end to see what I speculated is right. No. Actually, no, I do this. I think this is kind of the most confession thing that I do, is if I'm reading a book and I'm really shipping two characters, I skip forward to see if they kiss eventually, to kind of see if they actually get together and when. And then I read that scene and then I'm like, cool, that's what I wanted. Never have I ever read Harry Potter. Well, okay, so I wanted to say, you know, I haven't read Harry Potter so I don't have to drink, but I read the first book, so I do have to drink. It's not a very good drink. Ugh. Never have I ever read a V. Schwab book. Okay, you guys are just trying to let me drink now. Of course I've read V. Schwab. You guys know that. Never have I ever dropped a book in a bath. No, I don't actually read books in a bath. That's because I don't take baths. I'm a shower person. I understand the appeal of reading a book in a bath because it's very calming, but I would be so scared that I would drop the book and there would probably just be a voice in my head all the time being like, Leonie, drop the book, come on. Put it in the water, just drop the book in the water, just do it. I don't think I could handle the pressure. Alright, so let's move on to the never have I ever prompts that I got on Instagram. I'm sorry if I didn't get to your prompt because I got a lot and I don't think we have time for all of them. Never have I ever skipped a POV that bored me. I hear about people doing this. I guess you could expect me to do it because I often complain about how certain POVs bore me and I don't like them, but I can't get myself to skip it because I'm just scared that I'm gonna miss very important information. Never have I ever borrowed a book and never given it back. Story time. I actually really feel bad about this one, but about 5 years ago I did a book swap with some other Dutch booktubers. We're supposed to swap our favorite books with other booktubers, and then after we read it we were supposed to return it. And I got the Book of Lost Things by Marieke, who is a wonderful person. She doesn't have a channel anymore, unfortunately, but I never got around to returning it because I've only seen her once after that and I forgot to bring it with me, and now she moved to England. So I can't really give it to her. I don't know if she still watches my videos, but if you do, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry that I never returned that book to you. I really liked the book though. It was a really good book. And I hope you got yourself a really pretty new copy. Also, another time in elementary school, we had to read this book for elementary school and I didn't have a copy, so I borrowed it from a classmate and I just never returned it. So I still have that book somewhere in my parents' house. I did not have lunch, so I'm like, Never have I ever recommended a book I haven't even read. Oh my god. I tend to recommend people books even if I haven't read them, just based on what other people with maybe similar tastes as them have liked. And of course I will say that I haven't read the book, but I'm very okay with just telling people like, oh, I've heard about this book, it's supposed to be really good if you like this and this, you should try it out. And I don't think you can only recommend a book if you've read it yourself. Never have I ever bought the second or third installment before the first. No, I don't understand why people do this. I mean, no shade. I mean, do what you want, but sometimes I see people buy a second or third installment because it's on sale. And I'm like, but what if you read the first installment and you don't like it enough to finish it? And you have that second book for nothing. Maybe this is just me because I am very aware that there's like a 10% chance that I will read a second book after I read the first book. So that's why I never do that. I also never buy box sets because I'm just scared. You know, if I don't love the first book, there's just a really big chance I'm never gonna continue the series. And I'm okay with that. I know that I'm a serial series not finisher, and I'm okay with that. Okay, I'm not gonna read books that I don't want to read. Never have I ever judged someone by the book that they're reading. Never have I ever drawn on a book. Oh, I have! I'm gonna show you. A few years ago there was this trend to deface your favorite books, and I think it's also coming back now a little bit. So I drew on my copy of Six of Crows. I drew a little cane below the crow, and I drew this crow. I'm really happy with that. And I'm actually really enjoying the idea of making the books that you love really your own. Never have I ever not returned a library book. No, but it's my worst fear that I have a library book somewhere that I just forgot to return. Never have I ever bought a book just for the pretty cover. I mean, I don't really do this anymore, but I remember buying The Bone Season because the cover was just really pretty. The story also sounded interesting, and that's like the driving factor for me to eventually indeed buy it. But at first I was like, ooh, that cover, I like that. It looks like this, and it's actually one of my favorite book covers. Ooh, look at that! This is legit one of the prettiest books that I own. Never have I ever bought a book without knowing anything about the plot. No. I would never do that. The idea of buying a book without knowing what it's about, wait. And it is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. I don't really know what it's about. Never have I ever DNF'd a book. Yes, I have. But not many. I try to always finish books. Again, like I said, only if it's a library book. Then I tend to DNF it if I don't like it, but otherwise I invested money in this. I want this to count towards my Goodreads goal. Oh, and the next one is not DNF a horrible book just so I can count it towards my reading challenge. Yeah, so that's what I do. Also, if I'm reading a book that I really don't like, I want to finish it just so I can review it and talk about why I didn't like it. Never have I ever stayed up all night to finish a book. No, I have indeed never done that. I just fall asleep. That's the thing. I just can't stay up all night. I am a grandma. Never have I ever didn't read a book because of the cover. No, but if I really don't like the cover, I am way more inclined to listen to it on audiobook or get it from the library because I have no intention of adding it to my personal library. Never have I ever used liking reading as my main personality trait. I don't think have I? I don't think I do. So many of you guys are asking if I ever thrown a book out of frustration. Is this a thing that many people do? I really hope it is. I think it's very funny. Never have I ever met an author whose book I read. I've only met Leigh Bardugo in a meet and greet, and that was fantastic. And I still can't imagine the fact that I just met Leigh Bardugo. Never have I ever bought a second copy of a book because it looked nicer on my shelf. No, I have not. I don't do that. No. One day there's gonna be a moment where I buy a second copy of a book that I already own, and then you guys can roast me in the comments and tell me that I'm a hypocrite. A lot of you guys are also asking the question if, you know, pretending to have read a book that you haven't read. Like, is this a thing people do? Do people lie about the books that they've read? Is that a thing people just... Why? People are gonna find out really quickly if you haven't read a book, right? Oh, maybe it's... Oh, I guess a lot of people... Okay, I understand. Like, I think in high school a lot of people don't read their required reading, but I always did, and I was actually, I'm very angry about this because in high school for Dutch we had to read 12 books, 12 literature books, and I actually took the time to read them all, and I, you know, read as they advised 3 books, you know, 4 books a year so that you would end up with 12 books, and other people didn't do that. They'd either just like postpone it all the way to the end and then read them all in 1 year, or not read them and then just look up the spark notes. And I was so annoyed because when I had my oral exam where I was asked questions about the books that I read, which I did all read, I didn't know the answers because I read them 3 years ago and I could not remember what happened in them. And I was very bitter about that because I was like, I did what you guys told me to do, but now I don't remember. And this is a thing that has bothered me for a very long time that is apparently now coming out. Never have I ever ripped a page in a book. Ooh. Most of my books get damaged because I put them in my bag and then some of the pages get like fumbled up or ripped. Never have I ever pretended to read a book for school or to brag. Again, do people really lie about reading the book just to brag about it? Is this a thing that I should look out for? Are people just constantly lying about the books that they read? Is this just a thing people do all the time? Are booktubers fake? Are booktubers just not reading the books that they read? Do they just look up the summaries online and then give you their wrap up? Is everything just a big lie? I don't know, man. You never know. Never have I ever fake cried reading a book. I really like that one because it assumes that I can fake cry. Never have I ever read a book on the toilet. No, I do know people do this, but I don't do it. Maybe I should? Never have I ever read something that I was ashamed of. No, you should never be ashamed of what you read. Never have I ever written a story/book or started writing a book myself. So often, but I've never actually finished anything. But I do want to maybe start trying NaNoWriMo this year. Never have I ever returned a book because the cover was ripped. No, I'm too much of a wimp to do that. Never have I ever got a book on impulse. At least not recently. I really try to no longer impulse buy books. Oh! I just spilled the drink on my hand. Never have I ever approached someone in public because I knew the book they were reading. I wish I had the guts to do that. That would make for such a great conversation. Maybe you could make a friend, but I would never dare to do that. Like, I'm way too shy. Never have I ever burned books. No. I do remember when I had my French oral exam, we had to read all these articles and make a lot of notes, and I had this plan with my friend to just burn our notebooks because it would, like, the oral exam for French was terrible and it was such a hassle, and we had this plan to burn our books, but we never actually got around to doing that. So yeah, I've never burned a book. Never have I ever watched booktube instead of reading. I mean, what are you doing right now, huh? Okay, so the camera cut off without me noticing, and I have absolutely no idea where it cut off. It could be that I just spent 20 minutes talking to myself, not realizing that the camera had cut off. Never have I ever got a crush on a real person because they reminded me of a book character. Are you speaking from personal experience? Never have I ever stolen a book from the library. No! Don't do that. Never have I ever shipped a toxic couple. Depends on what you think is toxic. Okay, I'm just gonna drink because here's a rant for you, okay? Like, sometimes a romance doesn't have to be, you know, an exemplary romance. Sometimes it's just interesting. Like, I know that it would be very toxic for Alina to end up with the Darkling, but it would be interesting. I would love to see a book about someone getting, you know, taken to the dark side even though that person is being kind of toxic. Like, it would just make for a really good story. And this is why you should watch Hannibal, because that's exactly what happens in that show. Never have I ever bought over five books at the same time. No, because that is a surefire way to end up with books that end up on your TBR forever. Never have I ever spoilered a bookish scene. Okay, so one of my most viewed reviews on this channel is my Mistborn, The Final Empire review. It's very old, it's not very good, but it has the most views out of all of my reviews, and it also has a lot of dislikes, and mostly just comments of people saying that I was spoiling the book for them. But I rewatched that video and I genuinely don't understand what in that video was spoilery. I don't think I spoiled anything, yet everyone was like, oh, this is not a spoiler-free review. So I guess my definition of a spoiler is way looser than for most people. Like, I'm very fine with talking about certain things that are gonna happen in a book as long as it doesn't, you know, like spoil some major plot points. But still, that video, I genuinely don't see what about that video was spoilery. Anyway, okay. Those were all of the questions, at least all the ones that I can answer right now. If we're just gonna take all the never have I evers that have been asked to me the most, and if I'm just gonna assume that that means you guys also do that, it means that a lot of you guys apparently say that you liked a book that you didn't like. It apparently means that a lot of you guys say that you've read a book that you haven't read. It means that a lot of you guys are throwing your books across the room, which I approve of. And a lot of you guys have borrowed books that you never returned. Give me a comment of your most juicy bookish confession, so we can all just, maybe we should all just clear our hearts out, you know, just confess our bookish confessions. This comment session is a safe space. We're not judging anyone here. Just confess your stuff. I don't care, okay? You can follow me on my Twitter and Instagram at @thebookleo. It's also linked in the description. If you enjoyed this video, you can give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. I really hope you liked this video, and I will see you soon in another one. Goodbye!
you.